Good morning, everyone. My name is Andres De Leon, or otherwise known as Andy. Today, I wanted to talk to you about diabetes, specifically type 1 diabetes. Now, we do remember there's two types of diabetes. Type 2 is a diabetes that's kind of diagnosed later on in life that occurs due to a lifestyle of unhealthy habits, poor exercise, etc. Type 1 diabetes, however, is some genetic disorder that you are born with. There's nothing we can do to prevent this. Now, it is treatable, um, and it's by intake of carbohydrates. So, we know carbs. Carbohydrates are our body's main source of fuel for energy production. Not necessarily the best source, but the easiest source, and our body's going to pick the easiest route first. So, carbohydrates, we ingest them, they get broken down by enzymes such as amylase into smaller sugars, glucose, monosaccharides, disaccharides. Um, and these glucose molecules get digested, and down in our duodenum region of our small intestines, the pancreas produces an enzyme called insulin. Insulin is now taking these glucose molecules and converting them in citric acid cycle um, electron transport chain to make fuel, ATP, energy. Now, diabetes is a pancreatic problem where the pancreas is not producing this insulin. So, without this insulin, we have huge medical emergencies where glucose will build up in the blood and not only ruin the osmotic pressure that our body needs, but our cells are starving for energy. And they will, if they cannot get a hold of the carbohydrates and the glucose, they will start using fats and protein, which is not necessarily a bad thing in moderation, but without, if it's happening too much at one time without proper filters, now we're building in acidotic states. Lactic acid will build up in the body, ketones will build up in the body, and we can reach a state of shock called diabetic ketone acidosis, DKA. That condition can get fatal really quickly. So we count carbs, right? If the pancreas is not producing the insulin, we have to inject the insulin. Counting carbs is the biggest thing for a type 1 diabetic. Checking your glucose levels is the second biggest. So now, backing up from the medical aspect of it all, we count carbs. That means you're taking everything that you eat, looking at nutrition facts, the nutrition label, counting how many carbohydrates are in this, how much insulin do I have to take with this many carbs, how many servings am I going to eat, to multiply that by the carbohydrates to find out how many units my body's going to need. Um, which foods have the most carbs? Can I avoid those foods completely? Can I take other things instead of this? These are all crucial, crucial things to think about for a type 1 diabetic and their families. So let's think about the diabetic food pyramid. Very similar to the food pyramid that USDA used to use before the MyPlate. But the diabetic food pyramid, biggest difference is our big bottom section is not whole grains, breads, wheats, all of these carbohydrate filled foods, and it's mostly filled with starchy vegetables, your dark greens. Um, Now we still want to eat other vegetables on the sides, 3 to 5 servings exactly, but with your fruits, 2 to 4 servings, your milks, meat and fish, and then your very top is going to be your alcohol, sweets, fruits, and fats, excuse me, not fruits. So, with this being said, what has carbs in it? What can I eat as a type 1 diabetic? Controlling your diabetes through nutrition instead of medication is completely different lifestyle, and it's so much more preferred. Now, if your body's not producing insulin, you still need insulin. But if you don't need to be injecting 60 units of insulin when you can only inject 3 or 5 units of insulin at a time by just controlling and choosing what you want to eat, it is such a difference in controlling your diabetes. Type 1 diabetes really hits home for me because of my little cousin who was diagnosed at the age of 5. Um, Most of my family were very afraid to look after him at that point, including his mom. And it was, of course, his mom had to learn. And granted, I was only in high school back then, but had a very high interest from the medical field that I took on the research, and I began to educate everybody of what you do and what you look out for and how to treat it and what's going on. And it's always been such a topic just embedded in me ever since. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and please do not hesitate to ask any questions. Thank you.